Hello and welcome to another edition of the Crypto Club and Digital Assets Weekly Catch-Up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 8th of June, 2025, and it's been a bit of a mixed bag in the crypto world this week. Bitcoin's been hovering around $106,000. More news about stable coins, real-world assets and tokenization all coming out in the press. So maybe we'll discuss some of those in conversation today. We hold these sessions every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time. Never quite know what we're going to end up talking about. Really depends upon the audience. You're invited to come along. Details and how to join are in the link below. Topics vary completely. Some weeks we talk about blockchains, whether that's layer one, layer two solutions, interoperability, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, SCOs, all sorts of three-letter acronyms, the metaverse, central bank digital currencies, the intersection of AI and IoT, many other things. So hopefully there's something that you'll find of interest in this week's session. Do click on the like, the subscribe, but even more importantly, as I say, come on to a future event. So with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Annie, good evening to you. And Stuart as well. And looks like someone's on a mobile phone walking around. Is it John Lim? Hello? We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, hello there.
Yeah, first time joining. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well done for joining. Whereabouts are you based, John?
Right now, I'm based in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
But I do interact globally with my networks.
Cool. Well, it's completely variable each week on who comes along to these sessions. So we've got myself and Annie are both in the UK. Stuart is usually somewhere on the West Coast. And we're sometimes joined by a couple of others, either in California, Ireland, Spain, occasionally Dubai as well. I think someone said they might join from Dubai later on, but it's getting quite late in the day for them there. So what's your interest then, John? What's the area of interest for you?
The area of interest is in Bitcoin and stable coins.
Okay.
I'm working with a Dubai exchange that's licensed. It's doing institutional purchase and sale of Bitcoin and stable coins. And
Okay.
real estate as well, technology, but mostly real estate development of new projects globally.
Sorry, the audio's not quite clear on some of that, but I'm making out the most of it. So, okay. So I hear you working with a Dubai. Did you say an exchange in terms of Bitcoin and that kind of thing? I think you said.
Yes, it's a licensed exchange
Okay.
in terms of buying and selling Bitcoin and stable coins.
Okay. Yeah.
For institutions, large volume.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of news reports coming out of like Dubai and Abu Dhabi with VARA, VESA, and all the other regulators, wherever it's ABFS, I think it is for, ADFS, the Abu Dhabi Financial Services. The Middle East seems to be doing a lot of work around crypto and stable coins at the moment, definitely positioning themselves to be a world leader, which is great to see. And curious compared to the UK, where we keep saying that we want to be a leader and then don't necessarily do anything about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's also the issue of taxation. I don't know how friendly that is in the UK.
Oh, the taxman's very friendly.
Okay,
Yeah, he absolutely loves or she that loves it. It's generally if it moves, tax it, and if it doesn't move, then tax it. So yeah, so compared to the likes of some areas where it's tax-free regimes for crypto, it's not an ideal environment here.
right.
So it's interesting that. So, John, anything particular you're joining us today for? You're here just to listen and find out what we get up to, or got anything to share, or any questions or anything? More than happy to help.
I think really it's just to keep abreast of the cryptocurrency and the digital economy.
Mhm.
Things are moving all over the place. It's always good to know what's happening. Keep
Yeah.
track of that.
Well, the markets have been quite lively this week. I was taking a look at, I know Bitcoin isn't the only crypto, but it's certainly the one that tends to drive a lot of things. When we take a look for a minute at some of the numbers that have been going on. I was taking a look. There was actually an interesting dip the other day with Bitcoin a few days ago, where it suddenly dropped from like I think it was 110 or something down to just over 100 in a very short time. It's been gradually recovering since then. And what I always find interesting is that people keep saying about how cryptocurrencies are not directly correlated with each other. However, when we take a look at the overall market, it reflected that same dip, that Bitcoin being a major component of it. When Bitcoin went down, all the others kind of went down as well. So you can see with these other cryptos across the top with Ethereum and, well, BNB shouldn't really get affected that much, but it did. And Solana, they all had the same sudden wedge of drop down a few days ago, and then the recovery, and they're all pretty much back to where they were. Bitcoin seems to be in the rising ascendant again. The others are kind of playing catch up. Solana seems to be keeping pace with it as well. So I always find it interesting when you look at the other cryptocurrencies and what they're doing. They all seem to be following the same trail as Bitcoin at the moment. But I don't know, is that something to the level at which you take an interest in then, John? With the particular cryptocurrencies, or do you just look at the overall markets?
I think mostly Bitcoin and stablecoin would be the major currencies to look at, just for the fact that the size and the growth of these Bitcoin and stable coins are, the growth trajectory is very encouraging because they're pushing for that to happen. Just the volumes are staggering compared to the other cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
So if there is institutional interest, that means that it's going to be liquid and it's going to be adopted by large institutions, and therefore it's a viable currency to be traded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's certainly a fair thing. And I was just looking at some of the other markets, or certainly the cryptocurrency markets, kind of reflects what we're saying as well. The graphs over on the right about, Bitcoin had the drop and then recovered. Ethereum had the drop and recovered. Tether, with it being a stable coin, shouldn't really change that much. And sure enough, it had a little bit of volatility in it. Ripple or XRP, probably one of the more disconnected cryptocurrencies from Bitcoin, but again, had this drop and the rise. But in general, as you say, there's just a general trend at the moment of a gentle rise up across many of the cryptocurrencies. And again, it ties in with, as you say, the overall adoption of crypto, really. You look at the overall market cap. So we've got a table here or a graph here. We can see it was up to, what was that, about 3.5 trillion. But the overall trend is it's kind of heading back towards 4 trillion again, which ties in with, as you say, adoption and everything. The only thing I'd offer, I've said this before, is that I think that the markets, the actual participants are changing. So whereas in the past it used to be retail investors and speculators, it is now becoming more and more institutional investors who are using it to have a crypto reserve in some way, which allows them to hedge. I think that's a big growth area. I don't know if that's what you've seen as well, John.
Yeah, obviously we do see that because we are starting to see hedge funds and then eventually maybe even whole family offices are using Bitcoin and stablecoin as uh, sort of in their portfolio.
Mhm.
Obviously, in addition to gold, Bitcoin, these are some of the funds that are moving into this type of instrument. So we would like to see that trajectory and that trend because the more I think get involved, that means the volume should dramatically improve.
Yeah, I think that's certainly fair. And it's when you look at the kind of like the distribution of crypto at the moment as well. But I was taking a look earlier, again, just using Bitcoin as the example, really, where we take a look at how of the total of the 21 million that there's ever going to be, obviously we're well on the way to a high percentage of that being mined already. But the originator of Bitcoin still holds just under 5%. 7.5% of Bitcoin's been lost, they reckon. And then 70% at the moment is individuals, but it's businesses, funds, and everything. I don't know how recent this report is. I think it was the end of the year, but it was certainly saying around about 10% is held by businesses and funds. I think that will continue to grow as more and more institutional investment comes in, and governments as well. Typically, because they're seizing crypto from various activities, that they're actually becoming quite a major holder of crypto as well. Well, certainly Bitcoin. So,
Yes, definitely.
uh,
The government would definitely use stablecoin as an entrance to push their agenda of digital currency, which the central banks are very interested to push forward.
and it's interesting. We were talking last week, and Annie or Stuart might want to add on this as well. We're talking about the impact of stable coins, which are definitely rising in popularity. And if you've got more and more adoption of stable coins, which are backed by a fiat currency, then that means that the overall market cap of the crypto market is increasing as well. So I don't know, Annie, you were making some points last week about stable coins. So I was trying to remember some of the specifics of what we're looking at there.
Yeah, I mean, last week, I don't think there was a chance for me to ask questions, but then it doesn't matter because the discussion was quite interesting from Anthony and also from oh, what is his name again? Eric.
JT?
Eric.
Oh, Eric. Yeah.
Yeah. The two of them were quite amazing. I have to say that if they were back here, I would ask question because I remember Anthony mentioned something about Prudential. I think he seems to say that Prudential is replacing FCA, but my understanding is Prudential and FCA are two different things. They're not really the same thing, so they can't be, necessarily replace the other.
I think he was actually suggesting something else. So for those who don't know, in the UK, financial regulation is actually within the remit of the Bank of England, which has within it two regulators who are
Yeah,
linked, which is the FCA and the PRA. So
yeah,
you've got the Financial Conduct Authority, which, as the title suggests, relates to conduct of businesses in financial services. The PRA, the Prudential Regulation Authority, has a slightly different perspective.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but what Anthony was talking about was actually a different regulator coming into being, which was around the regulation of property. And what he was talking
Yes.
about, where he was saying PRA, he didn't mean the
Even with property, you still need FCA. There is no way around it.
Well, this is where it does get really interesting, and Anthony and I have had conversations about this in the past about the regulation of real world assets,
Yeah,
because property, if you think about houses, buildings, all this kind of thing, does not fall within the remit of financial regulation.
uh, it does if you're okay. It depends on what you do with it. So if you're trying to get people up the property ladder
Mhm.
by fractional ownership, you cannot get away from FCA.
So, so,
You
so,
still have to go through FCA.
so that's where it's the financial products that are fit within the FCA, and it's how you finance things. And this is the thing, that a building has regulations around it, around its construction, around planning laws, against all this kind of thing, many of which are not financial regulation. It's when you start introducing how do you finance things.
Yeah,
So, whether that's a mortgage, a loan,
exactly.
um, all that thing.
Tokenization.
Yeah, that part definitely does fit within
Exactly.
the regulatory framework.
Yeah.
And this is where Anthony was proposing you actually need property to be regulated in a different way if you're beginning to turn it into um, ultimately a fundamental derivative which supports your financial economy, which kind of gets really interesting then, because I think he recognizes that if you've got a currency, for example, whether it's crypto or wherever, which is effectively a tokenization of property,
Yeah,
then you do need that regulating in a finance way,
exactly.
which is different to regulating it as property and as title deed and ownership.
That is involved as well. So even with tokenized property ownership, there is still the title deeds happening,
Mhm.
but it's just different in that way. So I kind of, wondered whether apart from FCA, then there is this other regulatory as well.
Well, that's exactly what he was suggesting, that it doesn't exist at the moment. And what
Mm.
he was suggesting, I believe, was the introduction of a different regulator to look at that aspect of it.
Right, okay.
Because the other thing that people will often talk about as well is that there's another area of finance called securitization. So securitization is where you are developing financial instruments that are based not on the value of an asset, but on the revenue stream of an asset. So this is where it gets fascinating. So a property may intrinsically have a value, that house is worth $1 million or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
the revenue stream from it might be that you can charge rent on it
Yep.
for like $5,000 a month or something. Well, you can sell that cash flow as a securitized product. And what gets really interesting is that means that you've got a property worth, say, $1 million. You can then sell a product that represents a guaranteed income stream, $5,000 a month, which is securitizing that revenue stream. That is not a regulated market. So I found it interesting that in the UK, at least, securitization products are not regulated, which is an interesting avenue. And I think that may change in the future as well.
Which is quite unlikely, isn't it? Because in the UK, I think most things are regulated. I can't see how that is not being regulated. That
Well,
would be illegal.
it's kind of a bit like as John was asking about taxation. Yeah, pretty much everything is regulated, usually for the purpose of taxing it or controlling it or limiting it. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. So this is where introducing new and innovative forms of finance, which is what Anthony is talking about with having real world asset backed tokenized products, means you may need different regulation. I don't know, Stuart. Is this something where you've had any involvement or knowledge of? Because I know certainly. You're aware of
Not an awful lot, but
Mm,
I'm surprised that people from the UK want to be regulated all the time for what they're
mm,
doing.
mm.
It's almost like a national disease.
Yep.
And if I look at the securitization of property, which is not what Anthony's doing, he is actually fractionalizing ownership up to 49%. Quite honestly, I'm not sure that needs regulation.
Mm.
If you go into it's like a mortgage. You
Yeah.
know?
It's funny as well what you say about how the people want to be regulated. It does seem to be a mixture of some people who want the comfort of thinking that if something is regulated, it's protected and therefore
Yeah.
it's
I think they
safe.
vote Labour. Yes.
Well, keeping
Yeah.
the politics aside,
All right,
um,
let's keep the politics out. But yeah,
um,
no,
it,
there's people who want that security, but there's other people that look at it and say, "What are you talking about?"
completely agree, and this is where you'll sometimes get it as well, that a lot of people actually don't want things to be regulated,
Mhm.
but the press, the mainstream media, and certainly the regulator will always say, "Oh, well, yeah, everyone wants to be regulated." But then the regulator has got a vested interest in everyone wanting to be regulated because
Exactly.
it keeps
Of
them
course,
in work. Yeah, yeah. So
right.
yeah,
But I'll go back to the British disease because you love to queue, you like to form orderly things, you
mm,
like order,
yeah,
and that's a very British infection,
yep,
basically.
attribute.
So attribute, yes. So when I see regulations coming out from the English side of, or the British side of things, is it's always uh, I won't use a term that Jeremy uses, but it's always obfuscated in the sense that it's very broad, it's not to the point, and so it covers vast things, but at a very shallow level that any judge can interpret any way he wants or she wants. And
and
that's what annoys me about British law.
I think it's interesting as well. Over the years, there has been a change of attitude there. I think in the UK, they are going more towards what is known as principles-based regulation, which is
Mm.
don't be too specific, but try and give the guidance of what the overall purpose is of something, with the hope that people stick with it. The problem is any regulation that isn't very precise,
Can be
will
interpreted many ways.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. And this is the thing where I still have arguments with people, even when you're going through acts of parliament, which sadly I was doing that today with a couple of acts of parliament, just rereading some stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that it could potentially be interpreted in that, and people I was working with were saying, well, what we'll do, we'll interpret it this way. I said, no, no. The only people who can interpret the law are judges and juries. The rest can form opinions, which is why in the UK, if you really want to, if you're doing something interesting, you can get a King's Counsel, so a barrister, to produce an opinion
Oh, yeah.
letter.
Sorry, I was thinking QC and it's now Casey,
It's
isn't
now
it?
Casey, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
it
not
Yes.
is.
KC, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
change.
yeah,
QC
that's
Yeah.
right.
becomes KC now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
grew up with QC. Yeah.
I
yeah,
know. I
but
know.
but
Most of us knows QC. Yeah.
yeah, but you have got this thing that
Yeah.
aside from an opinion letter of a KC, which is just a way of protecting you from paying further interest if you're wrong, or a judge's decision which establishes case law, or a jury, then there is an awful lot of stuff that isn't ever as clear as you think it is, and it's always got wriggle room built into it, and
Mm.
flexibility. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm dealing with the UK law situation at the moment, and yep, very, very vague. It can be interpreted more than one way, and it comes down in the end to how good is your silk, basically,
mhm,
when he
yeah.
argues it.
And for those who don't know what a silk is, that's
Oh,
in
sorry,
the
sorry,
U-
sorry.
in the UK, that's a barrister, so somebody who's passed the bar law exam and is thereby able to represent you in court, which is interesting. In the UK, we've got this weird quirk that we have solicitors who are regulated, who represent a client, can't actually appear in the court, and you've got barristers who are bar approved or bar appointed lawyers who can't deal directly with clients. So it's a bit of a con that you have to deal with a solicitor who appoints a barrister to represent the position in court, which sounds like a great wheeze. You know, you think about the idea of crypto is to remove the number of intermediaries. There must be a great opportunity there, but I don't think that'll happen for a while yet.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of interesting.
Clever industry, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting about some of the happenings with regard to the cryptocurrency and real estate and securitization.
Mm-hmm.
I got a person in the UK who was approaching me, and he wanted to use his Bitcoin to lend on properties that I was looking for funding.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very keen to pursue to get his funding done through his cryptocurrency holdings, and so that was an interesting thing. And I also see some real estate, these are the outliers that were using cryptocurrency to incorporate in the real estate strategy, mainly in terms of some of them have used the tokenization of their assets in luxury properties and giving a higher return, about 40% in all of their property revenue, where they are getting all these properties rented out and they have cash flow and they are tokenizing it, even to the point where it's a 40% return for investors, which they themselves have come up under their portfolio of properties. And then you have, you know, one of the, this guy's a little suspect, but his name is Grant Cardone. Have you heard of this guy?
Yeah.
He's now
Flies around on executive jets.
know him personally.
He is trying to integrate cryptocurrency to his investors in his portfolio of properties, where he will assign a return and use that as a hedge that against the property. So he's trying to incorporate that as a financial instrument that not only do you invest in his multifamily projects, but you can also invest part of that capital for investors into Bitcoin as sort of an alternative hedge. And also what's interesting is we do see that within the Trump administration, he has appointed I forgot his name, but he is in charge of looking at cryptocurrency regulation and adoption because they are in favor of liberalizing cryptocurrency. More on a political aspect because the cryptocurrency community in the United States are backing Trump, and they have put quite a substantial donation to his with the government in terms of a party association of donations. So he is courting them, and we also see that he loves to come up with a lot of his own crypto business with his sons,
Mhm.
They have created a huge new cryptocurrency, and they have also been talking to the government in the Middle East, with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with Dubai, in pouring money into this cryptocurrency business. So there's some kind of like insidious relationship going on in terms of that happening. But in the United States, I think if a few innovators are going to use cryptocurrency in real estate transactions, then the SEC would want to be involved, because traditionally in the United States, it's a protection against uh, fraud or investors, especially in the real estate market. They want to make sure that it's safe. The minute all these innovative, structures are being used, whether it's tokenization, whether it's cash flow, or whether it's using cryptocurrency to fund construction projects, that all fall in the purview of the SEC.
And I guess, as you say, I think it was David Sachs, wasn't it? He appointed, the Trump administration appointed him as like the AI and crypto czar. And then the administration also appointed, was it Brian Quintez? Or Quintens, sorry, who's nominated for CFTC. And then a change also with the SEC as well, with, I think it's Paul Atkins. So yeah, certainly the Trump administration put in place a lot of crypto savvy, potentially, people to certainly support it. And you're right with things like was it Trump coin, Melania coin, and whatever else coins the Trump empire has developed. There's certainly a lot of stuff with that. So yeah, it's certainly interesting. At least it increases the interest and the knowledge and the awareness of crypto, which has got to be a good thing. So now we've been joined, and I'm confused. We've got JT and FM. Yeah, oh, there we go. JT's gone away, but FM's sticking around, and we all know cryptographically FM is JT. Really, how's it going, JT? There you go. He's even changed his.
All good. No, I
Yeah.
was on mobile, and then I switched to desktop.
Okay.
It's very weird. Sometimes when you are on desktop and you switch to mobile, it actually automatic switches. It asks if you want to switch. But if the other way around, it didn't happen for me. It's so weird, Google Meet.
Okay. Well, welcome back anyway. So we had Bitcoin 2025 was a couple of weeks ago in Vegas, and I know in London this week coming up, we've got London Tech Week. I don't know, JT, are you going
There's
to
not
any
much
events?
crypto on it. Last year there was almost nothing, really.
I was going to ask on there, because what I found is that, for those who don't know, London Tech Week started off as a small event probably 10 years or so ago now, I think, just around technology events. And it kind of exploded. It's massive, and there's all sorts of subjects covered in there. And they did go through a phase where there was a lot of crypto things going on as well. But I was curious, because I haven't actually looked at the agenda yet. I was just curious as to whether there's a crypto stream this time, but it looks like there isn't.
No, there isn't much going on. Yeah.
I was just taking a look as we're going.
There is Jensen Huang speaking.
Yeah, from NVIDIA.
I would have gone, but I don't think so, because there are weeks when there's nothing happening, and there are weeks everything happens all at the same time.
Yep.
I mean, if I happen to be in London, I would definitely gone for the NVIDIA presentation.
So I heard that he's not actually there. He's on the agenda. He's on the agenda, but I thought
it's coming to London.
I thought he was going to be on video conference.
He's in London. Okay. I know someone that is going to stay in his flat for a day or two.
Okay.
So it's coming.
Are they going to get their T-shirts autographed by him? which is one of his favorite moves, I think.
And he's also going to, well, he's in two agendas. He's in the London Tech Week agenda, and he's also the AI Summit agenda, which starts then on the 11th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I think he's going to speak on both events. So he's going to be probably staying this week here for 3 or 4 days in London.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for him. I'll see if I see him around.
Are you going there tomorrow?
I'll be in London, but I'm not going to Tech Week itself. I found there's too many things happening all over the place.
Yeah.
I end up just not actually going to any of them.
You can get a free pass, no problem.
Yeah, getting the pass is never the problem. It's getting the time to actually commit to speaking with people and that. So,
JT, you know how to get a free pass, is it?
Yeah.
JT has connections in low
I
places.
have a code. If any of you guys want a code.
Oh,
There you go. Reach out to him separately then offline. Okay. So I don't know. We're already 2/3 of the way through today's session then. So anything anyone would like to share first of all, which is usually where everyone stays quiet, and then the last 5 minutes, JT comes out with about half a dozen absolutely incredible things that we could have spent the evening talking about. So JT, I'm going to go to you first this time. Anything on your radar or anything you've seen that you thought interesting?
Yeah, look, I was looking at some projects out there, and because I think we are at that phase in June that either we're going to have a hot summer and things will start to kick off big time from now onwards, or it's going to go completely the other way. Yeah, so I was looking at projects, so maybe it could be interesting that maybe they could actually go kind of a big time and maybe try to make some money on it, waiting for token launch and so on. And I found there is a lot of projects still creating versions of meme coins and meme coin launch pads. People are being very creative at the moment because I think the model from pump.fun, I don't think many are very much into it anymore, because they got rugged so many times,
Mm-hmm.
and people were continuously losing money. So there's people being creative about creating platforms. And I saw a few, one I'm quite surprised is on Sui. There's a lot of people building on Sui, Sui blockchain.
Okay.
So that's super interesting. And I think they are gaining a lot of traction. They had that problem with the DEX that was hacked, yeah. And the hacker took, I think, 200 million of liquidity, but then they, I think, recovered about 170 or whatever it was, or they managed to agree with all the validators to pause actually and stop those transactions from going through from the hacker, from the wallet to the hacker. So that then, of course, it kicks off conversations about decentralization. If they can ask the validators to do that, and I truly believe that in any blockchain today that's possible, apart from Bitcoin. Very, very difficult in Bitcoin because majority of the blockchains are not decentralized. So if the senior leadership of a chain puts out there and say, hey, let's organize and let's stop this wallet, it's very possible in, I would say, probably 99% of blockchains,
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I saw a few projects, super interesting, but apart from that, I don't know much what happened this week because I've been looking at how to decentralize the AI properly. So I was kind of dived really into it, and there is only a solution for it, and I think I might patent it.
Isn't it Edge AI? I thought that was the way of decentralizing it, that you put all the AI compute capability on edge devices. That
It's,
makes it
it must,
that
yeah,
makes it
you're in the
decentralized.
right direction, but it involves concepts that they're very hard to implement, because what people are doing today in what people in crypto call decentralized AI is really bullshit. It's just a blockchain behind, There's not much about the actually decentralizing the AI itself.
Yep.
Which is very, very hard to do, DAI is a decentralized AI is a very old concept, yeah. I think from the 1930s or 40s, the first time um, um, it was mentioned, and I've read this a while back. So, and it was never been able to do it. And it's really about, if you look in nature, um, uh, how the birds fly, they don't collide, how the fish, sense tremors, and they all, especially sardines, they all fly in one go and they don't crash on each other, So the concepts around decentralized AI has to be around that type of concepts and to mimic what you see in nature. So swarms. So I'm talking here about swarm intelligence, yeah?
Okay.
Is the only way. And I actually around 2018 wrote a piece for a white paper. For someone was writing a white paper exactly about this concept. But I was exploring more recently how we could actually evolve with this, and I think I found a way, because it's extremely hard to do it.
Okay. So maybe that's going to be the next thing then. There, I've seen there's been a lot of iterations in AI. It's a bit like how in crypto we went through the cryptocurrency, ICO, smart contracts, NFT, blah blah blah, the various phases. Seen the same with AI, where we've had things like LLMs, Gen AI, agentic AI is certainly a popular one at the moment. Maybe the next one's going to be swarm AI. So if you could do a paper on that by tomorrow morning, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Actually, I have about 18 pages already. So,
but that's the speed at which the AI stuff's developing, isn't it? You look at the pace of new things, new innovations coming through, and new and interesting ways of burning through investor cash.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm actually doing is actually intersection with blockchain. Yeah, so it involves that as well, for many different reasons. Yeah, the nodes running, but for immutability, it doesn't matter what it is. The immutability. The problem with AI is if it's centralized, and majority of the AIs are centralized, the decision is made centrally by an AI. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you parallelize the computation, it's still a decision being made by a centralized AI, whatever that is. Yeah. Now,
so is this where you throw in quantum technology? And maybe
just bear with me, because look, anything that is centralized is hackable. So if I'm a very good hacker, and hackers have time, right? I just need to go to the network where they're actually training these AIs, the LLMs. And once I reach there, it's game over. It doesn't matter you have stuff at the edge. Stuff at the edge doesn't really, it's just executing commands, They're not really proper AIs. And even if they have, when we start to go into robotics, then it's a different game, okay? Because the robots will have to have a version of the AI that was created, but what that version is comes from a central operation, which is training those LLMs, improving those LLMs. And it's so dangerous. These people, there's no control at all of what's been happening with AI. So I've been pushing people to think about implementing some proper constraints. And
so you need to throw a few more buzzwords in there. You need to have autonomous agentic AI, quantum compute, and probably hyperscale as well. I think if you can get that into a project document or whatever, or a white paper,
and launch a token, and
then launch token, and you're away. Definitely. It's sad that is pretty much the way these things often go. Oh, well, I wish you well with your continued research on that, and be interesting to learn more at appropriate time. Then Annie can ask some great questions on it, and I'm sure when Elena comes back as well, she'll ask some really profoundly basic ones. So between the three of us, I'm sure it'd be a like Dragon's Den for you. You can do a 3-minute pitch on it at some point. That'd be good. Yeah, cool. So, anything else happening, folks? What else is going on in there?
I'm curious. I'm curious why nobody talks about the meme coins. And I was in a talk. Was it 2 weeks ago now? Probably around 2 weeks ago now. It was a speaker event in Cambridge about meme coins. And I did ask the questions about which one is more, as in earning more profitable at the moment. And at that time, of course, there's still not yet the political things that happens with Elon Musk. At that point, when I asked that question, apparently Dogecoins is one of the strongest one.
So
I'm quite curious. I'm quite curious as to what happened to that now, considering the situation.
it's a good question, but I think the more general one, first of all, about meme coins is I think, as with anything, there are communities who are focused on those particular areas.
Yeah. So I asked the question about, the communities that is as in which one is the most profitable. The answer at that time was Dogecoins. That's the strongest.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think as well that they kind of like pass out of that they are passing fads in some ways. That you get a community so it's a bit like the way some people got into tokens that related to sports clubs. So you had like a basketball token or a baseball club token. I think there's still a market for those, but it becomes very niche. Same as there was a period at which there was a big growth in tokenization of music and music events, that kind of thing. Again, I think there's another niche area in there. There's the art movement. So there's still, Beeple did his $69 million launch. There is still activity going on in the NFT world on artwork. So Sotheby's and Christie's are two big art auction houses. I think they now have like crypto presences or practices. So there's stuff going on, but it's no longer of the interest as it was. I think it's the same with meme coins. That I think meme coins have gone through their hype, as like John was mentioning before. You had things like Trump coin, Melania coin, wherever else. They seem to have gone through their. I'm trying to remember what is it where things burn really, really brightly for a short time and then kind of like just die away. I think a lot of crypto innovations do that. And then they come back and they get recycled and they maybe
called them pump and dumps.
Yeah. So sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's just that they're a bit too early for the time, or that people just move on. This is the other thing. It'd be fascinating to know the profile of crypto speculators and investors, because I think a high percentage of them suffer from ADHD. And it's like, oh, new shiny toy, I'll go for that crypto now. And I'm going to go into Doge, and now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to do this. So I think they just keep moving around. So there's nothing kind of sticky. Then you've got Bitcoin maximalists who, Bitcoin's the only answer, and they never move on. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know more about the, events like that, Annie, about what you hear. Because,
I think I read this week was that how much money the Trump family made from their meme coin is just insane.
It's more than their property assets, isn't it?
It's just crazy, the money that they've extracted from crypto.
Yeah. I saw that piece of news as well.
And it looks like a lot of it went went for the real estate, investments, so it looks like they are extracting it from the crypto market to do then all the other business that they do. And they actually going to raise, I think, 3 billion, a 3 billion fund to invest in Bitcoin and some top coins. And then they announced, I think was on Friday, that Liberty Financial is going to do that, but also is going to add the Trump coin to its portfolio.
Okay.
So on one side, they are raising Liberty Financial, raising this money for the fund. On the other side, they're going to buy it from themselves, the Trump coin, which is, I don't know exactly the mechanisms they're going to do it, but it doesn't sound really good, But anyway, I think there are other more interesting things, like this, you guys saw the Circle IPO?
No?
Well, Circle, they produce USDC, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, USDC is the coin. So they did an IPO, super successful, and on Friday, it just shot up the roof again. So that was something that really surprised me a lot. That there was so much interest for a company that makes a stable coin.
103,000, was it $103? Sorry, share price went to initially.
Yeah, look at the graph.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find something at the moment, which is demonstrated. I'm just reading the press release that said their launch and everything, and I did really well on the NYSE.
And Gemini, crypto, from Gemini, also from the what's it called, the twin brothers. Oh my God.
Oh, the Winklevoss twins?
Winklevoss brothers, the guys from Gemini, also, I think they filed an IPO with the SEC as well. So they're all going for it now. Yes, I think it was Gemini they did this last week as well. So it's interesting now that a lot of these crypto companies are shifting to the markets that, they actually created Bitcoin and crypto and all of that to actually go against the
helping you,
traditional
JT?
system. Go against the stocks, go against the fiat and so on, but they're now going back to it. It's so funny.
I just managed to find a thing on Circle's IPO for a minute, and they launched at $31, and it just went kind of like instantly 31 up to about 75, and then peaked out just short of 100. So yeah, a threefold increase is kind of interesting for it to rocket up that much. That sounds really, really good. However, that might mean that the brokers just undervalued it for the launch price. So, yeah,
I think it was paused for at some point.
Yeah, they suspended trading on it. Certainly, okay. I think they launched at 31. It records it up to over 100,
and then they paused it.
Yeah, which is a fairly normal thing. So yeah, interesting stuff, definitely.
Another thing that really, this was on Friday. X made a deal with Polymarket. So Polymarket it's a deal for on-chain prediction, on markets.
Okay.
That's now super interesting. People are scratching their heads and saying, what is Elon Musk now preparing with X and Polymarket, So I think X is going to enter big time on something in crypto,
Well, it's something I've said for a while as well, that a lot of people don't realize that X has actually got built into it a micropayments ability.
Bringing prediction markets into social media, especially, focused on crypto, that is super, super interesting, I think,
Yeah, I can't quite get the news article on Bloomberg, but yeah, it's certainly another interesting one.
I mean, Polymarket did like what, 7-8 billion last year, if I remember well. It's super interesting.
Well, it is the world's largest prediction market, isn't it? Because I think it was producing more interesting stuff around predicting the US election results which I think
Yeah.
the predictions it was doing were better than any of the traditional polling things. And it's fascinating. You look at what Polymarket allows you to place bets on. It's like Trump and Elon publicly reconciling. You can buy into that as a contract, and Trump and Epstein files made public, and all these kind of things. That it's amazing that
Wow.
the way you can put into these kind of like bets or bids, or use it as a hedging strategy is the other thing as well. So it's a very useful way of
Pure gambling, isn't it? Let's
yeah,
face
but equally it's a way of putting in place a hedging strategy against something going in a certain way. It's like
it's
kind
still
of
gambling.
yeah. It's,
Yeah, of course it is. Yes.
Yeah. And
So yeah, I'm curious, JT, with all these different things that you just mentioned, is that something that kind of helps you with the things that you do? Or does it kind of helps you prosper you in a certain direction with the work that you're doing?
which thing more specifically?
Like
Are
the
you asking?
Circle IPO that you mentioned, and so I'm kind of
No, it's
curious as to
just keeping an eye on things that are happening, and what people are interested to invest. It's important, isn't it?
yeah.
So we can make the right decisions.
yeah, so I just mean maybe that helps you to make your decision in terms of because you are heavily involved in the crypto market yourself. So
I wouldn't say heavily, but I understand what you mean. Yeah.
I think it's more about taking a general interest in what's going on in the market and what opportunities that may potentially lead to.
yeah, that is what I
Yeah.
mean as well, whether that actually helps you to try to launch
It helps.
some
It
sort of a
helps.
business.
Yes, it helps and makes me think as well about when I'm trying to have ideas about something. If you know what other people are doing, then you know exactly what to use and what not to use, what to think about. Yeah.
Mhm.
Have you
So-
seen also the FCA lifting the ban on ETNs? I don't know if you guys spoke about it or not.
on ETNs, no,
Yeah, they lift the
on the
ban.
retail side.
Yeah, for retail investors.
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
this was a big thing this week. I think it was like Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, or Friday. Friday.
You're right. It was
Yeah.
Thursday. In fact, here we go. I'll just pull up the news note before we finish. But yeah, actually on the FCA's page, which is the best place to go to, you want to know what the FCA is actually doing, lifting the ban on crypto ETNs.
For retail investors.
But they're only proposing to lift it, which is something. But
Proposing, people not going to say no, right?
well, exactly, yeah. So, but it is fascinating because I think this was what originally, as it says here, it was the FCA that banned them in the first place, and now it's looking at reintroducing them again. So maybe that hopefully shows some more creative, innovative thoughts. That's good news.
I would hope that they actually create some regulation, ask the government to create regulations that allows people just to evolve,
Yeah.
and stay out of it, just let the market will adapt itself,
Exactly. I agree that as long as you protect investors against bad practice, they should be allowed to make
But,
mistakes.
you already have those things,
Yeah.
You have KYC, you have all of these things that have been implemented throughout the whole banking system.
Yeah.
They are all there, all of those things. So
Agree. Anyway, that's probably a good point to finish on. So there's some good news at last in the UK that there seems to be some regulatory changes going on, which is really positive. So thank you for sharing that, JT. They're always a useful one for us to finish on. Going to have to close off. So thank you everyone for joining in. John, thanks for joining in from Canada. Annie, thanks as always. JT, thank you. For everyone who
JT.
is watching afterwards, come
Bye.
join us in future and have a great day. Bye for now.
Thank you, Gary.
Bye now.
Bye.